Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Today, my guest is my Opa. So, he's my dad's dad, and he's just a great joy to be around. Had a lot of fun with this one. A little bit about him. He immigrated to Canada from Holland back in 1958 at the age of 17 or 18 and started his life here in Canada. And yeah, today you can learn about the challenges of immigrating in his late teenage years and what was it like in Canada back in that time. How he went from a job to getting a formal education and into his career, and the importance of goals and how he liked to set them for himself. You can also learn about managing relationships and family and embracing challenges. Yeah, it was a really cool sit down with someone who's lived through so much crazy times as he has and has such a large amount of wisdom, and he's willing to give it. And yeah, it was very fun. I learned a lot, and it'll be very exciting to listen back to this for me personally in the future. And yeah, I'm just hoping to share some of his stories with the world. Please enjoy.
That's what, of course, was interesting.
There. So I can hear you real good.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming in as an immigrant is very, very testy. Because there's a whole lot of things that are not the same as what you have been grown up with and what you have been accustomed to and what you were expecting. And the sooner you realize and you adjust your expectation to what becomes more realistic based on where you are, the happier you end up being in the end. Because now you're meeting and your expectation is real, based on the circumstances and the world that you're now part of. If you change the world, I suggest that you don't, because it's a very, very difficult adjustment. At certain ages it is more difficult than at other ages, of course. But I found Owen that at my age level, and I think I was something like 17, 18, I had just finished high school, that sort of level. My friends were there, everything was there, and all of a sudden you're basically saying, well, okay, get your clothes on and get your coat, and off to the airport you are, or after the boat terminal you are, and you go to another country, completely different, which was quite an adjustment.
Did you speak any English before you came?
If I say no, I lie, and if I say yes, then you interpret and say, oh yeah, he was fully fluent. Well, that's not true. I had completed high school, and in high school we, of course, had languages, literally, and back in those days, there was, you had your native tongue, and then there was either 2 or 3 foreign languages. Now, being Dutch as my native tongue, you now had to choose your foreign languages. Now, of course, it always became English, French, and Dutch, and German. I mean, those are the 3 foreign languages that students get exposed to. So you get a bit of everything. And needless to say, English eventually became my best second language, because German is very similar to Dutch, and it wasn't too hard to catch on to. French was very strange, but English was kind of like the easier adjusting language to get in with. And then, okay, it so happens that my parents immigrated. And back in those days, when parents said, kids did.
Yeah.
Okay? So it was I was the eldest of 6 boys. So it was everybody line up, get dressed, and after the airport, we go to the bus, and we eventually find our way to Amsterdam or Rotterdam, whichever boat we went on to, and
So you boated?
we boated across.
How long was the boat trip? You remember?
It was rocky. It was very. The time of year, now I forget what time of year it was, but it was in the fall, and the weather was, started to be not so nice at times.
Yep.
Anyway, we did make it,
Mm-hmm.
so that's nobody got left behind. So we landed in Canada, and back in those days you couldn't come unless you were sponsored by somebody or some organization.
Mm-hmm.
And by sponsoring, it meant that whoever was doing the sponsoring, they took responsibility that you weren't going to be on a beggar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that you were able to find,
stand on your own feet at least,
work and be able to support yourself. That was their responsibility, and that was when we came over. So it wasn't very long when you start getting jobs, and once you start getting jobs, you better start learning the language very fast.
Yep.
And then in my case, I was somewhere around 17. It was 1958, and 41. I was 17 when we came to the country. So right away, quickly, you became a driver. You got your driver's license, which I did very quick, and I became a bread peddler.
And where was this? Was this in like the Holland Marsh or?
This was in the Barry area.
Barry? Okay.
And I started to work for Wonder Bread, delivering bread to customers. And that was, very quickly you start to learn English, you start picking it up, because, you can't just walk up to a door and have a customer pick a loaf of bread and you walk away either with the money or with a notation under the credit list. You had to start talking, and that wasn't. That all happened pretty quick. Now, when you're a bread peddler, you have to go to customer doors. Okay, you had a bunch of customers that you knocked on the door and you had your basket with bread and they picked a loaf or whatever, and that was all fine. But the faster you were, the better off you were. Okay, because you could do more stops in an hour if you were quick and on the
And
double.
did you just get like a little portion of each of the stops you made?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And so I was doing pretty okay, but it so happened that at one of the walks to the customer, I tripped over something, and I sprained my ankle.
Oh, ouch.
Oh, ouch is right. It was a very bad scene at the time, because it was very, very painful, and I could no longer walk quickly. So the manager at the bread office there, they realized that, hey, I was out of commission in terms of the walking, but I wasn't out of commission in terms of being able to know where we were, where the customers were. So this all happened in the June time world, And at that time, one of the fellas who was going to U of T, he was hired on by the bakery for a summer position, okay? And before the summer routes were available, he just filled in and helped out where he could. Now, as what happened in the June time, I sprained my ankle, and I could no longer do the walking quickly. So this young chap, he was assigned to me. I was doing the driving. I could still sit comfortably and handle the driving bit, and then I could tell him where the customers were and where to go. And so we were doing that for, I forget now whether it was a week or two, but after a number of days, and this chap was Bob, somebody, he was sitting in the passenger seat. I was doing the driving and I was doing the directing, and he was sitting there doing the running.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of looked sideways at me and he says, Jim, like, you're not at the right position. You shouldn't be doing this work for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because see what happened. You sprain your ankle, you can do nothing. You can't do the work. You just sit there now. And this chap kind of like quietly told me that I should be doing something different.
Mm.
And the end of that general discussion was that you should go back to school. You should go to school. And my eyes kind of popped up, and I said, you think I can? And he honestly said, sure you can. And that kind of like started the process in action, saying, what do I have to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Where do I start? What do I, So in pretty short order, a number of applications were filled out to go to, start again at the university level.
Mm-hmm.
Went to U of T, went to Waterloo, and and a number of universities that this application type was sent to. And invariably they came back saying, sorry, you don't qualify to enter into a program at whatever it was. But then I got wind of the university in Waterloo, Wilfrid Laurier, Waterloo Lutheran, whatever you want to call it. And I got wind back from them to say that we got a program which is called the preliminary year. If you can come and take full set of courses, 5 or 6, whatever it was at the time, and if you pass those courses, we'll accept you into the first year of the university program. And I said, well, I got nothing to lose except a year, And so somehow I managed to get admitted and accepted into Waterloo University, or Waterloo Lutheran as it was called at that point. And I got into what they call the preliminary year, which was a year for anybody who'd been out of school for many years, senior persons, or somebody who got as far as the grade 12 but didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can come in and try it again. And I was accepted into that program, the qualifying year program, and did my 5 or 6 courses, whatever it was at the time, and passed through.
How was your English then? Were you a little bit better or a lot of bit better?
I had to do my English, and then you had to do French, 2
Mm-hmm.
foreign languages, so that was
Mm-hmm.
typically French and German in my case, and then you had to take 4 or 5 other courses, biology, whatever, math, trigonometry, or,
Yeah.
whatever, it allowed you to qualify. So anyway, I did, and I got through past that year, and then just carried on.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I ended up with my BA, and then I ended up working, and somehow or other I got connected with going to Queens for a master's program.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was working for the government in Ottawa, so I gave that up I went on a leave of absence.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Queens, which was fairly convenient to Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, once I finished there, I started to look around for jobs, and I ended up at Imperial Oil.
Mm-hmm. What did you do your master's in? Like, what was it?
Economics.
Economics?
Oh yeah, economics and business were my background courses. That was pretty much a given.
Mm-hmm.
Languages were out. Yeah.
Yep. I definitely get that from you.
Yeah. But anyway, it was all good, and basically, it's set your mind to an objective,
Mm-hmm.
and do what you can to get it. And,
Mm-hmm.
Be reasonable about what you're looking for, and don't let somebody say, "Oh gosh, you shouldn't do that."
Mm-hmm.
But if you're convinced that that's your cup of tea or bailiwick, whatever it is, you go for it. And what I found interesting over time, as you're getting comments that says that shouldn't, that's even the more incentive to make that shouldn't change to did.
Mm-hmm.
Or can, whichever way, that I always found very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because like coming into a 100% different environment, it was quite a challenge, and but
Mm-hmm.
you go for it. And
Who was telling you shouldn't do stuff?
young people that were similar age
Mm-hmm.
to what I was in.
Yeah.
Because as an immigrant, like it's quite a challenge to battle with the language and everything else that's different. Like your living world and your living expectations are quite different here from any other
Mm-hmm.
major nation that you may come across.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, set your goals reasonably.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make them insurmountably difficult,
Yeah.
but make them a challenge, because if it's not a challenge,
What's it worth?
you very soon get disillusioned a little, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that seems to be
Yeah.
been my experience. And
Yeah. I'm curious, before you immigrated, what did you think you were going to do? Like, did you have something in mind, and then you immigrated and it was just a complete shake-up?
no, not necessarily, because when we were still in Holland, I was going through the elementary school and then through high school. But business type was my strong want and ability. Accounting, anything mathematically oriented, those sorts of things I could relate to. English, French, and German, the languages, or you throw in some philosophy course and throw in some of these other guys. Well, you did them because you had to do them in order to carry on, and that's enough of an incentive to handle them, but not to necessarily enjoy them. And anyway, that's so here we are, and when we came to Canada, I met Diane on one of my summer jobs. I was the summer bread man in the cottage area where her parents had a cottage.
With no sprained ankle?
No sprained ankle at that point. I was doing my thing, and all of a sudden she and I met, and a few minutes discussion. A week later, you wanted to go on a date. And we went on a date to Aurelia, where there was a musical presentation. And one Saturday evening, we went down, and it evolved, and eventually you got serious enough that it becomes a marriage.
How long did you guys date before you got married?
1963 to 66, I would say probably 3 years, somewhere in it. I was busy going to school, and I was, at that time I was still going to Waterloo, so I was there for the week and then come back for the weekend, and but anyway, it all works the way it's destined to work.
Yeah.
So you're still got your objective set, and
it's been shaken up a little bit with because I'm doing my double major, like civil engineering and then also artificial intelligence engineering, and I'm also finding that online there's now just so much information. I'm also learning all about like business and philosophy, and there's just so many things like pulling my attention, and I haven't really set my sights on exactly one thing. I feel like I've got my toes in so many different pools that I'm not really sure what. I'm still like getting through university. I'm doing well there, and then I'm also trying to tack on more and more skills and learning new things. And
give it your best shot, Owen. It'll pay off in the end, okay? Because you'll be more satisfied, and everybody that's going to hire you will be more satisfied. And if you find an area that you're really enthused about, you'll never fail. That's okay. That's kind of like my general experience from way back. And I know back when I was kind of like into your age level, I felt that I had to set an example, okay, because I was the eldest of a bunch, and the other thing that was a driving incentive is that we were foreigners, and we had a whole lot of other foreigners, Dutchmen, that you kind of like wanted to show that you don't have to be secondary. You can become more than what,
Yeah, you can surpass the expectations that you got.
that's generally what it translates to, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
definitely something I've been. I want to be really good, so gotta work towards it.
It's an incentive. Do yourself proud and do everybody around you proud.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a recorder.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been using them just with some friends, just to sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And
And then being able to
listen back to it later.
recall and
Document the progress that I've made.
Mhm.
That's something I also, in like high school and stuff, I didn't really document anything. I didn't take any pictures, or I was just
going.
in my own little world. And I think it's definitely cool to look back and be able to look back, and not only look back, but when I'm a lot older and I've got a family and I can show them where I was when I was 20 years old, and
Yeah, absolutely.
they'd be able to see it. I think that's really cool.
And in my case, Owen, what was an incentive is that I was the eldest
Yeah,
of 6 boys.
yeah,
Okay, so now I was a direct immigrant. Some of my brothers were born here or were very young when they came here.
hmm
So they grew into conversion very easily, much more easily than I did as a person. But it was an incentive for everybody coming on behind me.
Mhm.
Hey, he can do it. I can too.
hmm Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
Yeah,
We definitely pulled from people that you look up, see what they've accomplished, and once you can humanize them, you can connect to them, relate to them. It's be like, if I just do similar things, I can get there too. And yeah,
yes, it had lots of good reactions, and eventually I met Diane on one of my summer engagements,
hmm
and that was a success.
hmm I'm curious. You were obviously married for a real long time. What are the secrets? What do you got to do?
Patience and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my way is the highway sometimes, but not always a must.
Mm-hmm.
I can go on side roads, okay, and still achieve and accommodate and be compatible with your partner,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a very important step, and invariably it's not a short term, but it tends to become, if things jive, it's a longer term engagement. And
Mm-hmm.
oh yes,
Yeah. Yeah, my girlfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years now, so
way to go, Owen.
yeah.
Yeah, and I find that patience is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I find it's always like, sometimes you just have what you think a situation is, and they've just got a completely different opinion on it, and you gotta work out how we're seeing things differently, and
Yeah.
come to a together consensus, so we're both rowing the boat in the same direction.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, very true.
What made you want to move on to the farm?
Acreage.
Mm-hmm.
My background was country type.
Mm-hmm.
My parents had a farm, or like and it allowed me to do something on the side.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want it to be a full-time proposition.
Mm-hmm.
When we had the orchard, there was a lot of work there, but because we were into apples, for example, you had a lot of walk-in people that would come and pick their own, which kind of like solved some of the workload.
Yeah.
But then, once you start something like that, as I did with apple trees, after you put the apple trees in, 3 or 4 years later, you start picking apples, and then you're being challenged. Now, what do we do? Okay? And it wasn't very long when I got introduced to, you better make some apple cider.
Mm-hmm.
People want to drink cider. You want to get rid of apples. You want to get rid of bruisers, second class apples, and you want to get rid of a lot of them.
Yep.
And to do that, you get yourself a cider press and just put the apples through a mill, chop them up, and then put them in the press, and get yourself tons of cider, and people love it.
Mm-hmm.
And well, that was the reality on things. It's pretty. I know it's pretty background elementary, but it still worked in our case.
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that definitely in the future I'm going to want to go out into the country, set up a home there. So I feel like I'm like on a major road right now in London. So it's no backyard, no front yard really. It's just kind of like a little porch. And it's better than an apartment in my opinion, but I definitely want to have like a nice big backyard, somewhere that I can have like a garage and a workshop, and then also with some nice land, get some animals and somewhere for kids to play.
Sounds like a nice idea, Owen.
Yeah.
Now, just one thing that I'll suggest you know where your priorities are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your primary responsibility is to have a number one type job where your income comes from, and then have your enjoyable side time time where you can spend, but those should not necessarily become your primary time, because like you can't create a conflict. It's
yeah. To set the priorities right and know what you're working for.
It's a general idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still got one more year to figure that out. So.
Oh yeah, like that's, and don't be afraid to make a change after you say, okay, this is what I'd like to do. You do it for and then say, well, let's take a side trip and maybe do like whatever.
Yeah.
It's always interesting when you make it with a partner, okay? Which I know in my case I'd done my major before I met Diane. So it was pretty well
Mm-hmm.
established what I was going to end up doing, and she realized that, and in our case, one of the very first things when we met and realized that we were probably going to get serious is take on some of the major opinions, things that you definitely don't want to be involved with or definitely want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in our case, she was a Toronto girl. She was from the city.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was from Timbuktu. And, you know, in that case, we very quickly had to kind of like sit down and say, look now, I know that with my potential, I will probably have to work in Toronto. But because of my desires, I will never live there.
Mm-hmm.
And Diane kind of says, yeah, okay. All right, that's what, you know, like
Mhm.
we established an understanding that we didn't, you know, you didn't want to be surprised.
Yeah.
And I worked a long time for Imperial Oil, 111 Sinclair, Don Mills, you know, like those areas. But while I did that, you know, we lived in Uxbridge for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, hey, okay, an hour's drive to get to work, that was no hardship, because we had a nice place we were living at. You know, if I didn't have to go to work, I enjoyed being where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that all, in our case, worked out for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
That's especially the nice thing about this time. My last 2 jobs that I've had
Yeah.
have been jobs where I don't need to be in person all the time because everyone's got their laptops and computers. A lot of my job was report writing, and I could just do that from home. So I was no commute, and sometimes I'd be in the office and be able to talk to people in person.
Yeah.
So it was a real nice balance there.
No, that's super. You know, that would work for you. That was certainly in my working days.
Not quite there yet.
Not a possibility. Adding machines today, they were created back in those days.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, a big, not necessarily argument, but something that my girlfriend and I have always been at odds with is I've grown up in a Protestant church. She's a very devout Roman Catholic, and so we've been sort of button heads a little bit in there.
Yes, that's a significant difference.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, you have to come to an agreement somehow, however you do it, I have no idea,
Yeah.
okay? I know in Diane, in my case, when we talked religion and, you know, where and whatnot and where to and so on, you know, one thing we agreed on while we were still in the dating world, not in the married world, but in the dating world, is that wherever we go together.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like in our case, we were both Protestants, so it's not too hard. Not too hard to go from United Church, a Presbyterian church, or to something, you know, something else, but it's all at the Protestant level of some sort of other.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't difficult. But those are things that, you know, we did not want one of us to go on Sunday morning to the Presbyterian church and the other one to go to a United Church.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're thinking, no, let's agree on, we're going to find one denomination that we're both going to be
That's a
happy
good
with.
idea,
Yeah. And it works out when if you want it to work out, you know, like
You'll work it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else did you work out in the dating world before the married world? Do you think that's important? And any other areas that you think you gotta really hash out before you make any big decisions? So that's where we're at right now, is trying to figure out what we're both, what our priorities are going to be, and all that type of thing.
You've got to decide what you're going to do. For enjoyment, what playing cards, it's some people like the gambling bit. Gambling did not exist in Diane and my world. Okay, that's but some people seem to thrive on it, and nickel and diming, but
yeah.
No, it's quite a nice, as long as you're both serious, whatever comes your way, you'll discuss and come to an agreement, because the mega principles you should have ironed out now. Like how are you going to spend weekends? How are you going to spend, relaxing times? Those are things that you shouldn't find as a big surprise to say, oh gosh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But agreement, reconciliation, there's nothing wrong with changing your opinion on what you, because let's face it, it's you two together.
And I'm not always right. You learn that quick.
It's going to be the way. When when the time comes, that's yeah.
Yeah, we're headed out to a little pumpkin patch tomorrow. We'll see a corn maze and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be fun.
And whereabouts we did to be somewhere else?
It's close to Guelph.
Oh yeah.
She's at her parents' house in Guelph right now, so I'm gonna drive up there, go to a little farm up there for the morning and a little bit of the afternoon, and then we're going back to school, and we'll be there.
Back to school, one more year, is it? Or?
Finish this year, and then one more year after that. So.
Finish this year, so you got a bit to go.
Yeah.
And then one more full year.
That's right. Yep.
Very good.
And then it's off to the races.
And which part of the world do you think you're going to end up working in?
Hard to say right now.
Yeah.
Hoping to be able to bridge the gap between civil engineering and new technologies that are coming out, and get fast equipped to integrate them into the civil engineering industry, and see what I can do there. Not sure where exactly I'm going to do that, but
most likely be in the highly populated area.
Yeah.
Toronto, or
on the outskirts of Toronto, probably.
London. Like that.
Yeah.
Kitchen of Waterloo is probably a.
Yep. The good spots to. Yeah. Everywhere in the world has big construction industries and have the need for civil engineers. So I don't think I'm too tied down to specific areas, which is nice.
Well, I always thought that Kitchen of Waterloo was a desirable area at the time. Okay, size-wise, just a general. It was not in Toronto, but it's close enough that if you want to go to Toronto, you can. If there's something going on in London, you can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
It's a very central point.
that's what I like about the Kitchener-Waterloo general area. You know, it was important for me at the time. Okay, my parents were up in the Barrie area, that I was able to get back and forth on the weekends.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a car at that time?
I'm sure I did,
Mm-hmm.
because you know, like it wasn't very long after I ended up with a car, thanks to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I couldn't afford to buy a car, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, my parents realized that if I'm up there, I'm not going to come home unless I've got easy
A way to get there,
transportation. And so somehow or other, transportation was available. And
Mm-hmm. That's good.
yes,
Yeah.
and you know, in my case, I had brothers who started to work, and they were, for me at the time, equivalent to a bank. I was able to borrow money,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, like recognize that it was to be paid back.
Yeah.
It was not just
It's not free.
not a gifty world, but still, it was an availability to carry me through until I started to work in the summer again, and
Mm-hmm.
you pay back.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's very nice.
Yeah.
And your girlfriend is doing
She is also going to Western
also going to Western.
She's doing. She wants to become a doctor. She's doing like an honors specialization in biology and some genetics minor, something like that.
Yeah,
And yeah, applying to medical schools next year.
Well, Owen, it's nice to have a long-term goal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to become a doctor. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's a long-term goal. Takes X years, and you know, you realize, okay, what steps to go through to get there. But it's nice to have that goal and to be able to identify the steps
Mm-hmm.
to go to do it. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something that they don't teach in school, is setting your own goals, because it's so structured out. You got to finish this year, then you got to finish this year, then you got to finish this year. And so after I'm done with school, I'm going to have to start setting my own goals and figuring out where I want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and find the little steps to incrementally get there.
Try to be realistic,
Yeah.
but a little bit of a challenge is marvelous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where you got a goal for a year or a goal for 2 years. When you get there, you can kind of like say, see, to yourself, okay? You don't have to brag to anybody, but just your own satisfaction is very important.
Yeah.
You set your goal and you go chase it. Nobody's business what it is, unless
Yeah.
they can help you get there. Sometimes, okay, but
Yeah, that's definitely been something I've been more focused on recently, because in like high school and stuff, I was never really setting my own goals, and then this past year I've had certain goals in like, I wanted to prove myself that I could do something every day. So this past, since January 1st, 100 push-ups every single day. I'm at almost 30,000 push-ups this year so far, and so it's just something for me to be able to prove to myself that I can stick to
that you can
something
do it.
every single day.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's definitely been, I spend a lot of my time thinking about what's next, what's my goals,
Yeah.
what are the steps that I'm going to be taking to get there. But it's definitely a learning curve.
It is, and make them realistic enough that you
Yeah, you don't want to set yourself up for failure, but you don't want to set yourself up for just a nice, easy, breezy life.
No,
so.
yeah, no, it's you're right on the,
Yeah.
in my opinion, right on the money there. That's very good.
Mm-hmm.
And, over the years I found that, the early years when we were immigrants, it's important to have your goal and feel that you can do it despite perceived limitations that you had a year back, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's nice.
Yeah. It's also finding the right people to learn from. You want to find...
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Who are some of the people that you think you learned the most from to get you where you wanted to go? Was it like professors or just those people that were like the Bob, the Wonder Bread guy that was just whispering in your ear, giving you the reassurance that you could actually do something?
They were the professors. Okay, my first year. Okay, and they were sympathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, poor old immigrant, barely able to speak the language, and he's taking, there's half a dozen university courses to prove that they should let him into a university program. And they were, well, okay, they were sympathetic to the cause. And in my case, Owen, they knew that I tried my utmost.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I couldn't write an essay, well, that wasn't the reason to keep me from carrying on into another
Mm-hmm.
year. English, of course, wasn't my strong point, but trigonometry, mathematics, like all these math courses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, I'll sit down, and before long, I'm good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew that, and that all helped in
Mm-hmm.
some cases to just carry on. And
Yeah, math doesn't have a language; it's just numbers. So
yeah, it's very nice to have a goal and make it challenging enough that
mm-hmm.
you can be proud of it when you're done.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
When you were finishing up university and then finishing up your master's, did the SO job just come up as like an opportunity, or were you like just looking for a big company that you can apply your knowledge to?
I had connections within SO,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked for them, and then I had to go on a leave of absence. And leave of absence, get you no pay, but it keeps you on somebody's list.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my particular case, okay, I did my university work, and then hey, I'm available. And they said, good. But I also kept my foot in the door, if that's a term, with summer work, and
Mm-hmm.
Like 4 months off in the summer is a long time.
Yeah, find something to do.
Got to pay the bill somewhere,
Yep.
somehow.
That's right.
No, that all, in my case, that all worked out well.
Mm-hmm.
But they also knew that I wouldn't work in Toronto.
Yep.
Head office at 111 St. Clair, in my case, I knew where it was and I'd visited it, but I don't want to commute to it.
Mm-hmm.
Don Mills, that was much easier, more appropriate for me to get to, and that worked out well.
That's good, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely had my share of learning that the commute is not that fun when I was living in Oakville last summer and then having to go up to Orangeville. In the first month it was like 3 times a week. Got to be up bright and early before the sun's up and get there for 8 o'clock. It's over an hour commute and yeah.
Yep. Well, you gotta, where your work ends up being, that's what dictates where, don't turn down a great work opportunity because it takes you to an area that you didn't think you wanted to be party to.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
That's right.
Okay. And your girlfriend is trying for the medical profession, eh?
That's right. Yeah.
That's quite a challenging
It is, yeah.
path, I think.
Yeah, and it's quite a long one too, because it's 4 years of undergrad, and then 4 more years of medical school.
4 more.
4 more years of medical school, and then 2 years after that of the residency, where you're just in the hospital but not quite a doctor yet, and then you can finally become a doctor. So.
Well, that sounds like quite a commitment to start on that path. That's,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, the more power to you and her, because it's eventually it becomes a mutual impact. Somewhere somehow.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Okay, now this gadget is?
That is a little microphone, so I could listen back to this talk later.
You can read, okay, I see.
Yep. That's right. Yeah, I got these little things so I could just document. Mm-hmm. I like, instead of writing stuff out, sometimes it's just a lot easier to talk, especially when you're having a conversation and you can listen back to the conversation in a couple of years' time and yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, it's like that one.
Yeah. I made a little list of all the reasons that
it's been a long hike.
Yeah. That I wanted to start doing stuff like this. I also think that being someone cut from your cloth, much better at the mathematics than the writing or the communicating or all that, especially notoriously for engineers. If I can spend more time in conversations like this, I'm going to become a better communicator and I'm going to be able to relate to people a lot better. And in a world where a lot of the people, especially engineers, aren't very sociable, I'll have a leg up on them and I'll be a much better fit for whatever I need to do, especially if it's talking to other people.
I know.
So that's one of the main reasons that I started doing this.
Yeah. Way to go.
Yeah. And I've got a couple other little things going on where I spent first year of university was a big adjustment when I moved out to London, and first time living on my own, didn't really know what I was doing, and I maintained my marks from high school. I think I was in the low 80s, mid to low 80s, something like that. And I realized that I'm spending a lot of my time just distracted by all these things, social groups and whatever else. I'm like, if I really put my effort into school, how good could I do? And then I spent second year really focusing on school, see how good I could do, and I took my marks from the low 80s to the mid 90s, and then I decided last year would be another year where, okay, I did this once, can I do it again? And last term, I finally got my first perfect grade in a university course. So I got 100 on the nose, and so now I'm more focused on, okay, I think I've got the hang of school. Now can I start putting my focus elsewhere and see if I could do some more side projects and spend some more time learning other skills and
diversify a little.
Yeah, so I don't have all my eggs in just one basket, and I can really figure out what I enjoy doing, not just what I'm good at, but what I enjoy spending my time on. Yeah, that's going to be the most valuable for me in the future. And so,
well, yeah, the more power to you, and that's A1.
Yeah.
Have your goals and go for them.
Yep, that's right.
But don't be, completely ruined. Like, balance your world, balance your life.
Mm-hmm.
It is marvelous to have your goals, but don't have them completely distract everything else. Not saying that everything is important, but
it's definitely different seasons in life for different things, and there's going to be a season of work. There's going to be a season where it's a little bit easier, and just got to get through it. What do you think some more skills that are going to benefit me in the future, like that I could focus on? Because I'm trying to just get as many skills in my arsenal as I can, as young as I can, to sort of set myself ahead of the pack. And what do you think I should focus on?
Oh, and I really am so far out of it that I don't think that I can contribute to what path, is, back when, okay, I knew my world, but I don't. I'm now quite out of current realism.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I definitely enjoy learning about the past. I've had a second wind of a lot more appreciation for the times back then, and there's just so much going on right now that is right in front of my face, and it's nice to be able to take a step back and really just enjoy it. Yeah. Yep. I got one of your old Rummy Cub games. I've been teaching my girlfriend how to play Rummy Cub and all that.
Yeah. Well, it's just an interesting 20-minute, half hour, it's not, not a full-time consuming activity, but it's nice to just sidetrack, get your mind off of some things.
Yeah. Nice day out today.
It seems nice, yes.
It's been cold these past few days.
Yeah, you don't want to go without a half decent jacket.
Yeah, this past week has been a week of me challenging myself with cold plunges. So swimming in the cold water to build up my resilience up here. And so when I got back on Saturday morning, I was in the pool when it was, I think, 57 degrees Fahrenheit, and today I've done it every day since, and now it's down to 49 degrees, and just for a quick 3 minutes to set myself
Get
up
out.
good for the rest of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never, well, we didn't have those
Yeah.
available at
Yeah.
at the time. It's when I grew up, I learned to swim because my parents at the time, they thought that it was good if I knew how to swim.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the local swim pool in town, and that's where, it's a public swimming area that you could become a member of, and which we did, and so that's where I learned to swim at the time.
That's good.
Yeah, so I can swim.
That's good. Yeah, my
So
parents.
I won't drown if they ever push me into a pool. I know how to pedal around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a good skill. You also, growing up as an immigrant, you didn't have a very easy life, many would say. And growing up, my dad obviously is quite successful at what he's doing, and
Yeah.
I grew up pretty pampered. I can now say that I have to sort of make my own artificial challenges to build me up, because if you're just riding through life on the wave of someone else's boat, you're not going to get anywhere important.
You're okay.
So, yeah.
That's commendable. Yeah.
I've been trying to really challenge myself in new ways, creative ways.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And this is for some people the last quarter.
Yeah. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
Okay, well, that's great. I'm glad that you're willing to take the time, Owen, and come down and, and I don't want to make it sound like everybody is necessarily in the same, in the same quarter, but I don't think I'm the exception.
Well, yeah, it was very enjoyable.
Okay, that's great.
Yep. Time is now 3:45. It's getting up there.
You wanna?
Yeah, I think
you
I'll.
wanna try and skip the rush hour?
Yep, I'll
Beat it.
be getting out of here now.